right. Good evening, my lovelies. We are here tonight to do another Wes Craven classic, Scream. And I had no idea this was based on a true story. Uh,
I didn't either. When you texted me what we were doing, I was like, are you like I really had to stop myself from looking it up because I was like, no way. But then I was like, no, you can't. You're gonna ruin it for yourself.
so, uh, watching this, I really wished I could have been watching it the first time again, because I do feel like it's a movie that holds up. It's still very entertaining to watch it over again, but I just feel like there's a first time watching it where you still get that thrill of, oh, they fucking got me, like
Yeah, yeah. But I love this movie. I could watch it over and over and over again.
it really holds up. It's so good.
I love it. I
So
love Russ Craven so much.
he's kind of killing it. It's kind of killing
Yeah.
it. And this movie's so great because it also I mean, it's slasher, so I'll never say it's scary. It never scares me. But I like
Mm-mm.
that this movie does pull a pretty good twisteroo on you,
Hmm.
and it still manages to slide in some comedy in there. Like,
Hmm.
you're gonna giggle through it, which is fun. So we start out with the iconic young Drew Barrymore, because this movie came out in 1996. Which I want to say the whole time I was watching her, I was like, God, I just love that lipstick. She was really killing that shade she had
She
on.
was gorgeous. I mean, she still is gorgeous. She has aged so well, but
Oh yeah.
when she was younger, it was just like quintessential, like hot girl. I love that for her.
And this scene is so iconic. It's brought up in so many like spoofs and stuff, and that she's only in the first like 6 minutes of the movie. Like,
Yeah, and
but
she's on
she's
the poster.
exactly. And what do you most people remember about this? Like that phone call,
Right.
like it's crazy. But we open up, she's home alone. She's a teenage, she's supposed to be a teenager. I will say none of them really pull off teenager too well. But so and the guy calls, in which once again she's picking up land phones, which I'm just like, the nostalgia land phone.
At least they weren't corded. At least they were the at least they were the ones you could walk around with.
But no, the first one she picked up was a corded phone, and
Oh,
then she
you're
went to
right.
the kitchen, and what in the world? My pug is attacking his butt.
Okay.
um, and then she goes in to make popcorn, and
You're right.
then they call back, and it's I was like, these were the good old days. I'm sure like younger people would probably watch this and be like, who's entertaining this? Why would you keep talking? But I'm like, I probably would have as a teenager. We were more on like AIM and stuff online by that point, but like talking to strangers just fucking around was definitely something you did back then. Like,
Yeah, well, the thing is, like, now I don't ever answer a phone
yeah,
number that I don't know. Never. You can leave me a voicemail. I don't care who
yeah,
it is. I'm not picking up the phone. But like back then, unless you specifically paid for like the caller ID feature and not just the feature on the phone, but paid extra to the phone company for
yeah.
that feature, you had no idea who was calling. And it was totally normal for your friends to call you and just fuck around and like pretend to be somebody else because you had no
Oh
way
yeah,
of knowing who
oh
it
yeah.
was for sure. And like, yeah, we had phone books, but not everybody's
Oh,
name and number was
the good
listed
old
in a
phone
phone
book,
book. So
right?
like you're going to assume the people calling you are either meant to be calling you or they got like a wrong number. So
Yeah.
like anytime you answer the phone, you're usually talking to somebody you know or knows of you somehow. So like it wasn't abnormal at all to just answer the phone and continue talking to someone and not know exactly who it was.
Oh yeah, but even I love she was like, at first she's like, oh, wrong number, hang up, call back. It's still
Right.
a wrong number, and he's like, I just want to talk to you. And she's like, there's 900 numbers for that, and I was like, this sucks.
Blast
That's what that
from the
means.
past.
So she does end up talking to him for a bit, and slowly but surely it starts getting pretty aggressive, and she starts getting scared and crying and stuff like that. And I want So at this point, it's about 4 minutes 59. I wrote this down specifically because I thought I caught a good Easter egg, right? I'm watching the scene. It's about 5 minutes in, and she's like backing up, like he's officially on the phone, like, I can see you. What do you do? Like saying, and she's backing up towards, she's in her living room, and at her back is glass doors. And I'm like, you see somebody in the reflection. You can see somebody sitting on set in the reflection. And then he's like, oh, we have your boyfriend, turn on the lights. And then you just see the guy outside before like it's official. And I was like, dang it, they got me. I was like, ooh, I got something good. No, it was just her boyfriend outside already. And I love how he's taped up and he's like, please God, no, please God, help me. And then he's like, turn off the lights. And she's like, okay, bye-bye.
Yeah, she just turned them off.
And he's like, no. And I get being scared in the moment. I'm not saying like, oh, that's a dumb move. I just love that she was just like, well, sucks for you. Okay, bye.
Right.
But then she crouches down behind their TV and unplugs the lamp. But like all the room lights are on. So then I was like, what was the point of unplugging
You're not
the lamp?
hidden.
You're not
And
in darkness. Like,
and she's not even, she's like, I mean, it's a big TV. It's from the 90s. It's a big TV.
yeah.
And she's like in between the wall and the TV, but you're still not hidden. That's
No.
not a good hiding space.
She's
like,
not hidden. And then it was just like, okay, well, if he didn't know where you were, now he does with the blinking lights that you
yeah,
just,
the light turned off.
The one tiny lamp that your whole house is lit up. But no, now that you got the lamp, you're probably good. Don't even worry about it. So he ends up gutting, like he's trying to quiz her, you know, what's your favorite scary movies and stuff. And then she ends up getting it wrong, the Jason question. So he's like, your boyfriend's gonna die now. And I did not like how they pulled this off. I don't know if it was like they just couldn't get the special effects right or just an editing issue. But like she's staring out the window, but it makes it seem like she still doesn't see the killer himself. And then all of a sudden her boyfriend's guts are just hanging out. And I'm like, he's not a phantom. Like,
right.
I don't, like they made it very like he just ran by so fast, but she's,
yeah, it was a little awkward.
Staring, you know, like,
yeah.
I was like, something went wrong there in editing or something, like where they were trying to do something, they just couldn't make it work. And they were like, just fuck it. Just
it was a little clunky.
Do your best.
Yeah.
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 So then she ends up like running to the kitchen. And this part I was like, what the fuck? So her house is getting smoky because remember, she was making popcorn. And
on the stove. She's making popcorn on the stove.
Popcorn's on fire.
And it's just
but she grabs like a knife, which fair enough to grab a knife. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like,
dual wield. You need a dual wield.
Yeah.
You have fire. you
have flaming popcorn at your will. And we're just, no, okay, well, it's cool.
And the popcorn
to, like, burn the house down. Just, I'm taking you with me. We're all
the popcorn is in like hot metal too. Can you imagine getting whacked with that fucking aluminum?
Yeah. So she ends up like kind of backing out and she gets outside. And this is where I start going, what are you doing right now? So she gets outside and she's hiding and she kind of peek in the kitchen window and she sees him kind of walking around the kitchen looking for her. But then she looks out to the road and there's a car coming. And I thought she was just trying to like time it right to like bolt to the car when he can't see her. And I'm like, okay, well, he definitely walked away, bitch. It's your time to run. No. She then gets down low and starts slowly crawling. And I'm like, the car's going to pass you. What are you doing right now? And then she stands up and looks through the windows again instead of just beelining it for this car coming right at her. And then he like turns around like that magic moment of this like, ha! And then she screams and he comes through. He ends up stabbing her and stuff. So she can't scream anymore. And her parents are like fucking right there. They're like right there, walking up the porch, and she's coming out the side. And I'm just like, oh my God, look to your left. Like, and they go inside and they see their house is like burning down. They're like, where is she? And the mom picks up the phone. She's been on the phone this whole time. So she has to hear her daughter gurgling to death pretty much. And then the husband's like, well, go to the neighbor and call somebody. And she's hanging out of a tree with her guts hanging out and just totally obliterated. And I was like, that felt, as a mom, that part hit different than it probably hit the first time I watched this movie. Like, I would be like,
yeah,
die as a mother to know
You'd
that
have
you
to
just
put me in
died
a yeah.
right there. Like,
5150 me immediately.
oh yeah,
5150 me
I
immediately.
don't.
Don't no.
Oh, so
But
that was
I
beautiful.
that whole scene, I am 100% sure that the actions that she took, being stupid and not making the right decisions, was 100% intended to be that way by Wes Craven, because the rest of the movie is a social commentary on how stupid people in horror movies are and why they always die.
Yeah,
And every single stupid move that she made is by the playbook of dumb horror bitches that
yeah,
have zero self-preservation skills. So like the first time I watched that movie, I was screaming at the screen like, you're so fucking stupid. Like, why is this considered peak horror movie? Why is this a good slasher? Like, this is she's an idiot. And then as I watched the rest of the movie, I was like, oh,
yeah,
I see,
yeah.
because that's the whole theme. It's not just a slasher film. It is a slasher film taking the piss out of other slasher films.
Which sadly comes with a true story, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. uh, so then we jump to it's Sydney. She's in her room. She's on her old ass computer. Fucking ancient. And her boyfriend Billy comes to the window. And I tell you what, first of all, do you know what this actor's real name is? Skeeter,
Oh, I knew that. I knew that.
which
Mhm.
is a creepy name for a
Funny.
creepy man. The moment I saw this man, I was like, oh, you're the killer. You cannot play dutiful boyfriend. You're coming in hot with the creep vibes, and you're definitely the fucking killer. And then it
Yeah.
was also ew because the whole thing, that whole scene is just sexual pressure. Just, hey
Yeah.
Sid, you're still holding out on me. I thought you loved me.
Yeah, I hate that.
But oh, I
Kick
was
in
just
the
like,
nuts.
eh,
Just kick him
barf.
in the nuts.
Yeah.
Get
I
out.
was like,
Get out of the
Sydney,
bedroom.
she's such a strong character in every way, other than that. That's her fucking boyfriend. You know? Like,
People make mistakes. You know,
I know. She's only supposed to be a
abusers get
teenager.
people.
We can't judge her too harshly. She's supposed to
Well,
be
and
like
she's
16, 17 in this movie. So,
yeah, and as we find out later, she's not had a very easy go of it lately. So
yeah.
it makes sense for her to try to lean on this person that she thinks is, and this
Yeah.
person that's manipulating her. So
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. And it's hard to watch because I was trying to think back of when I watched it because I was obviously younger when I watched it. I think he creeped me out always, but I don't think when I was younger I was
yeah,
as critical about as like red flaggy about the scene as I am now. Like wanting to scream at young girls and be like, run away.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because like I was a teenager too. I wasn't allowed to watch any of these kind of movies growing up until I got my own TV in my bedroom, and then I got a laptop and access to Tumblr, and then I just started watching whatever I wanted. So I didn't start watching this kind of stuff until I was like 16 or something. And I
yeah,
remember watching it for the first time, and I just remember this scene in particular, uh, thinking to myself like, "Oh, I know dudes like that." Like
mm,
100% I knew teenagers at the time that I was like, "Oh,
oh,
they would do that kind of shit." Like
yeah.
it's like accurate, and that is so sad. That is
That is the sad part because when you also talk like you were talked about, this movie is very famous for its commentary on other
right.
movies. But I feel like in this scene, that wasn't a commentary. That was just how boys are. You know what I mean?
How
Like,
yeah, and it was I know that at the time that like 90% of people felt for Billy in that
oh
scene
yeah,
versus feeling for Sydney.
absolutely.
I know now it's like changing with us, the
Yeah,
elder generation, being more vocal about what is okay and what is not okay, and like empowering younger women to have boundaries and shit. Now it's not as common, I don't think. It still fucking happens, and I don't think it'll
yeah.
ever
Oh,
stop happening completely. But now I feel like anyone who's watching, if they were to watch this now, they would immediately be like, fuck no. Like,
oh yeah.
absolutely not. Like, no,
Run.
we're not doing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But me as a teenager, I was like, oh, yeah, that seems. That seems right. Like,
That's how it is, like in all movies back then. Like
right.
every single one was pressure the virgin for keeping it
Yeah,
in the
she's
race.
weird. She's a fucking virgin.
Yeah, exactly. So this is where then it jumps to the next day at school. Oh yeah, and Sydney's dad is also there, and he's knocks on the door, and he's like, "Hey, I'm leaving town," which I was like, seems irresponsible, but okay. Like, especially when you find out
Yeah.
their family as a whole has gone through more trauma, it's coming up. But like, then you're really like, Dad, where the fuck were you going? But anyways, so they end up at school, and this is where I was like, I kind of get it, but a part of me was like, this is not how it would go down at all in real life. Like, the murder happened at the girl's house, but they like shut down the fucking school, news cameras everywhere, doors blocked off, and they said it was that way because they were going to be interviewing just everybody in this whole fucking town. The whole school's getting interviewed, which I get, kind of, but I'm also like, it's almost too much. That's not how that would work out.
Yeah, no, that would they would start with the people that knew her
Yeah, it'd be like
first. And
parents.
I mean, it's possible that they might come to the school to like get with her friends, but
Yeah,
they wouldn't be like, we're
but it would
gonna
not be the
interview
circus that shit.
all of these
Yeah.
children at on one day. Like, get no,
What
that
I love
doesn't
about
make
that
any
too
sense.
is their parent. They keep flip flopping between this feel of being small town but also big town, because this school
Yeah, I
is
hate that.
massive. This school is huge. It's like 2 stories, and you see a lot of like students and stuff. But then they keep talking about like it's a really tiny town, and like, and they have deputies and sheriffs. There's no like cops, you know. So they're really playing into
Well,
like,
the my thing isn't here's my thing. My high school was really big, but I only graduated with a class of I think a little less than 300. Like our student body wasn't that big, but the physical school itself was 2 stories on like multiple
well,
acres. Like
that
it
just
was a
feels like
big
bullshit now. Because I had a
school,
class of
but
over like 2,400, and we were in
that
the
was
tiniest
B.
fucking school possibly. Like,
Yeah, that was B. But here's the thing, it was out in the country. Like literally the school itself was on what was considered a back road before the school was built there.
mm,
So it was like all of this room and they had all of this like extra space to build up a decent nice school, and they've been using the same school for like 70 years or something before they were like, we got to get our kids the fuck out of here, like this is like it's not going to work for the next generation. But the thing that got me about this one is that this school is like in the middle of town, like it's in
yeah,
like they're like in the suburbs, and this school is literally like there are houses across the street from it.
yeah.
So I'm like, what kind of town is this? Because even B grew up in the suburbs where we're from, where we're at now, but he had like over 1,000 kids, something like that, graduating. And the schools here aren't as big as like my school was. But again,
Yeah.
it was in the middle of fucking nowhere, so it had all the space they wanted to build as big as they wanted. How are you building that in the middle of town? That doesn't make any sense.
I guess that's true. But now it just makes me feel bitter. Because
What?
I
What?
was stuck in such a tiny fucking school. My school might as well would have been an elementary school. Like, I'm not even exaggerating that. Like, it was tiny, bro. And it's still tiny. And that school has been there for many a generation. That bitch was built in like the fucking 50s. Like, it's tiny. But anyways, I digress. We also get to meet the great Courtney Cox. She is an uh, tabloidist named Gail.
News anchor, kind of.
Yeah,
Not really, but kind of.
she's they, as you talk to her more, you find out more about her character. She's more of like the personality more, and she's trying to be serious. She wants
Hmm.
that big break so that she can get out of the pop star kind of stuff and get into real news, you know. Um,
Hmm.
she's a real go-getter and a bitch, and but I still really like her character.
I do
And
too.
then oh fucking Dewey, Deputy Dewey.
I love him so
Literally,
much.
Oh my god.
He
Just
is baby. Like he is
oh,
baby.
in
I
many
couldn't
ways.
handle I couldn't handle being in a relationship with him. He would drive me up the fucking wall.
Nope.
But he is my
I'm not
favorite.
gonna lie, man. He played this character where you almost do question, does he have like a mental disability? Like he played it almost too dumb. It was he's supposed to be a 25-year-old man trying to be a part of the sheriff's, and the lines he says, we're gonna get there, but my god.
But
Like,
that's why I love it. I'm like, you are so stupid. But I'm also stupid like that. And B looks at me all the time and is like,
oh no,
I know
I
he's
can't
thinking in
do
his
that.
head, like, you
I
say the
need
dumbest shit.
yeah, you will. I'm definitely one of those people. I can say dumb things. I can be dumb and cute, but my man cannot be. Like, you say too many dumb things around me, I'm like, you're not smart enough to be in my conversations. Like, and Dewey
I
falls
mean,
under
that's fair.
like,
B, I am attracted to people who I feel like can handle shit. Like,
yeah,
if I don't want to handle it, you can handle it, or you can get us out of this situation because
yeah,
I am
exactly.
probably going to freeze up and be an idiot about it. So you need to be, and that's definitely B. That's what I'm saying. I could never be in a relationship with him because,
Yo,
with
yeah,
Dewey,
because you'd
because
have
that,
to like take
I
care of him.
can't,
I'm
I
like, I
refuse.
can't take care of you,
I'm not
you
your mom.
child. Like,
I'm not your mom. I'm not your mom.
oh yeah,
But being a friend, we would be best friends.
I don't know if I could be. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if I could be Dewey's friend. I'm like, fuck, he's walking over here
So
now.
I would make him so many cool things. We would be such good friends.
But you know who I would be friends with? Fucking Matthew Lillard. Ooh.
Oh my god.
Ooh.
I
This movie is a bisexual's wet dream. Like, just from Nev Campbell to Drew Barrymore to fucking Matthew Lillard, you're just like drooling this whole, and he
I
plays his role so well. Oh
I
man.
don't think there's one role that he's played that I have disliked. And I love that
Oh yeah.
he's getting like this resurgent, like this cult following
Yeah.
now, like online, that he's like everybody is giving him like the praise. It's like a Brendan Fraser thing, but for dumbasses instead of for serious actors.
Yeah.
Like Matthew Lillard is not a himbo. Brendan
No.
Fraser is a himbo. No matter what his body looks like, he is a himbo
Yeah.
forever and always. And like the resurgence that Brendan Fraser has gotten, Matthew Lillard is now getting that, except for in a cult, weird emo kid way. And
Yeah.
I am so here for it.
Oh yeah.
Like, I
And
love
he
him
deserves
so
it.
much.
This man was a huge childhood crush of mine. Like, any movie he was in, I was
And
just like,
why? I look at him and
oh,
I'm like, damn. But
I one,
he's
as
kind
we
of ugly,
established
and I
last
really
week.
like that.
Yeah, as we established last week, give me tall and gangly any
That's
day of the week.
true. That
Like,
is
it
your
is my
thing.
body
Yeah.
type. How
Yeah,
thin
that's
and
true.
tall can you be? Because mommy likes. And he just so like his facial expressions, and he just, oh, I love his
Yeah,
character.
he's kind of
I love it,
ugly, and I like it.
but in a really
Uh,
sexy way. Like, he's
I
not
like it a little
conventional.
bit ugly.
Yeah, like you were saying with
Not
like Brendan
conventionally
Fraser,
attractive.
especially in his heyday, he was a conventionally attractive man. Like, he had shit thrown at him, which was fucked up. But Brendan Fraser was and is a conventionally attractive man. Like,
Right.
Matthew Lillard is not, but he's still
Yeah.
sexy. Like, you just know he'd bite you in bed, and you like it.
He'd just be weird. He would just be weird all the time, and I love
Oh,
weird people.
I would love it. So, and this is, you get a lot of little scenes where it's just kind of like them talking about the different things happening, and the boyfriend's in these scenes too, and he's just as fucking weird and creepy. I don't understand the vibe he's trying to go for. If you were trying to throw anybody off in this movie, like,
He's I get the idea that like his before you even find out anything, his character is like that popular hot dude that feels like they can say and do whatever they want, and they can be
yeah,
as mean to you as they want because they know that they're popular and attractive, which is a huge like turn off for me. Like, I don't want
yeah,
anything to do with you. You're stupid. You have like there's nothing about you that I don't even want to be friends with you. Like, you are so fucking annoying
Yeah.
and I hate it. That's like, I feel like that's what his character is supposed to be, but the way that it's written, it just gets creepier and creepier, which is the purpose. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be creepy and off-putting, but that's like the basis of his character is like popular hot guy who acts like a dickbag, and that's
But
it.
people love him anyways. And he's but that's also what I don't like about Nev Campbell's character, because she's supposed to be like the virginal good girl who's just surrounded by all the naughty kids, but she's also like really tough and stuff. Like, and I just watched this movie being like, how are these people how is this your friend circle? Because you don't seem to actually fit in that well with them. Like,
I
I,
think so. This didn't happen to me, but it's because I like fucking bonded with my best friend, and we just never broke that bond, and we're basically the same person. But I know, like, from what I understand about a lot of other people's experiences, a lot of times they'll like be friends with someone while they're like young, like little kids, and then when they get to like the high school years, it's kind of just like they start becoming different people, which is fine. um but instead of drifting apart like people who have totally different interests and stuff you would think they would, because they've been friends for so long, they just like
yeah,
stick together and start ignoring like how douchey someone is becoming or something, because that's just been their friend for forever. I could be totally off base because, like I said, I have literally had my best friend since I was in fourth grade, and we are literally the same person. Like, but we grew up having the exact same interests, and
yeah,
it just happened that way. So I assume that, like, it's kind of like you have a bond with each other and you don't want to let that go, even if it's time to. Because you're
yeah,
right, she doesn't really fit. And part of it could be because of the trauma that she's experienced. Her character is a little off. Maybe before the trauma, she was more like them. And then
yeah,
after the trauma, kind of had a shift in personality a little bit. And she just hasn't gotten back to who she was before, kind
yeah.
of.
And all
So,
through
like,
this part, you are getting those hints that, like, because they're dropping it, like the way she reacts to Gail, you're kind of like, oh, what's that there? They obviously know each other, and they keep dropping the hints that you hear people talking in the background. Could this be like the other murder? Well, what other murder happened? Like,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you're starting to kind of get pieces of the mystery here. Um, and then, uh, what did I write here? I said pausing movies. Oh, the days.
Oh, because we could
But I'm like,
pause.
they never
What?
paused the movie there.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. I really gotta stop acting like I'm gonna know what I was talking about. You know, I
You gotta
give
learn how
little.
to take notes.
I know. I do little, like, I'm in the moment. I'm like, oh, this will tip me off. I'll know what I was thinking, so that I can just have quick tip offs, and then I don't. Then I'm like, what the fuck was I talking about? uh.
And I
So
don't know where you're at specifically because we've been
I know, because we
jumping
are kind of
around
jumping, because you
because
get the
they're
school scene where they're like, they're talking at the
well, she
fountain,
goes home.
leaving. Yeah, she goes home. She is home alone, so she's on the phone with her other girlfriend that she just left and was like, hey, come get me tonight when you're done with practice and stuff. And she's like, okay.
Yeah,
She
because
does
I
end up
don't want to
falling
be home
asleep,
by my fucking self while my
which
dad is just
fucking
dipped out of
fair.
town.
Fucking fair. And this is where you also get the solidified, her mom was the murdered victim, that
Yeah,
everyone's been talking about. It was her mom. And that's why she also doesn't want to be home alone, because her mom got murdered. So
right.
she she falls asleep. She wakes up to her friend calling her, and the friend's like, oh, I'm on my way. I'm going to stop at the movie. That's probably what I was talking about, picking out movies, because her friend goes, I'm going to go to the movie store because I'm going to get a Tom Hanks movie. Not Tom Hanks.
Oh, like Blockbuster.
Tom Cruise. Yeah. She was like, and
Yeah,
if you
Tom
pause,
Cruise movie.
because she says in the thing, she goes, if you pause it at a certain time, you can see his penis. And I was like,
Right.
pausing movies. There's the thought. We found it.
Jesus Christ.
And as soon as she hangs up, she gets the call again and she's like, just pick a movie. And then it's like, hello, Sydney. And she's like, at first she's like, oh, fucking funny. And I actually like, because like Drew Barrymore's character was kind of talking to him at first, but the moment he got creepy, she kind of was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck's happening? But Sid was like, oh, really? Are you watching me, motherfucker? What am I doing now? Oh, you're on my front porch? I'm on my front porch. Where are you? And a part of me was kind of like, bitch, if you don't reel it in,
right, chill the
there's
fuck
a
out.
killer threatening you. But a part of me was like, you know what, Sid? Fucking go get him. Go get him. Don't let him scare you into the corner, you know? Like,
right.
sure, if you're outside, at least you can run, you know? But then she does go inside and then puts the chain on the door. He's already inside. So then she gets attacked.
Because you left the door open.
I know. So she's fighting her ass off, killing it. Tries to go out the front door, can't because the chain's on. She runs upstairs. She had it where like her doors were backed up, so she was able to open her closet door to block her bedroom door. But he's trying to get in, and the phone line doesn't work because she was on the phone and she dropped it, so it's still on.
It's on. Yeah.
So she gets online, which I was like, I didn't know you could do that in '96.
No, with dial-up, you shouldn't have been able to do that, lady. Satellite wasn't here yet.
This was movie magic, like Back to the Future. People were watching this going,
well, yeah, and she was texting. She got on her phone and was messaging 911 on her phone.
She was on her PC messaging 911.
On her computer is what I meant. Yeah, she was like typing in.
And I was like,
911.
I didn't do that in '96, but maybe it was like an emergency thing. This was, I can probably say, before, like I was alive, but I was a fucking kid at this time.
Yeah, I was 5.
Yeah.
But we couldn't do that from my computer when we got it when I was like 11 or 12. Not that I know
of a computer until I was much older. So a lot of that real early stuff, I don't know much about.
We had a family computer. And well, I mean, my stepdad was a huge tech geek. Like,
nice.
I mean, we used to build our own rockets and shoot them out in the field in the backyard and shit. So like he was a ham radio operator. Like he was a huge tech geek. So yeah, as soon as we could afford to get dial up and get a family computer in the house, we had one. And then he upgraded and he gave me his like extremely boxy. It looked exactly like the computer Sydney had, like
nice,
huge. And I played the first Sims.
The good old days. My best friend. So when I was like a preteen, we got a computer, but it was in my parents' room, and they never bought us any games because it was like a work computer. We could do our homework and stuff on it, but that's it. But my friend's house, her computer was down in the family room. You could do whatever the fuck you want to do on that computer. So we played Sims like crazy, like multiple houses, and then of course instant messaging inappropriate older men.
Yeah, getting into chat rooms and just being like, I'm 12 years old. The fuck is wrong with us?
I lied. I was like, I'm 30.
We did that a couple of times too.
Pervs totally ended up with our pictures and stuff, like.
Absolutely. Oh, I didn't send any pictures. That creeped me out.
Oh,
I never sent any pictures. Thank
I did
God.
so many dumb things.
But I did talk to people.
Yeah. And I was at least smart enough to like, we never actually gave them where we really were. We were like, we're in
I did do that
and stuff. Now, I'm sure if someone actually knew what the fuck they were doing with technology, they probably could have easily fucking found us. Right. But luckily nobody ever did. So yeah. So anyway, she's like typing in 911, killer disappears, Billy jumps through the window, and she's all like, oh my God, Billy. And then she goes, hold up, bitch.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Which
what are you doing here?
I was like, fucking get him, because I'm just like, that's the obvious fucking answer, you know. So she gets him arrested. Yeah, she gets him arrested.
And a cell phone falls out of his pocket. A big clunky, huge cell phone falls out of his pocket, and she's
and like. And then I love. So they go down to the PD, and Dewey's talking to her, telling her everything's gonna be okay. And he's in the office with his dad, who, by the way, is, I don't like to call people ugly, but he's like the weirdest face man I've ever seen. The father, like his face, really disturbed me. Where I was just like, wow. What are your features doing?
Jesus Christ.
And even the way he was wearing his pants, I was like, what is is happening with this whole thing? This is the whole thing. But they're like, so why you got a cell phone? And in my mind, I was like, probably a good question in 96. Like, not everyone had a cell phone. But then he goes, everyone has a cell phone. And I was like, did they have a cell phone? I don't think they all had a cell phone. And this was proven later on in the movie because Gail pulled out her cell phone and it's the literal brick one that was like this fucking tall.
Yeah.
Like, and I was like, see, not everyone had a cell phone when that bitch was hanging around.
No.
Like,
no. Only like
so
rich
I was like,
people
oh,
had
you know,
cell
you're a
phones.
rich douche when you had the nerve to say that shit. Like, no, not everyone has a cell phone in these days.
Exactly.
But he ends up being booked. And I did think this was really fucked up, just in logistically, if this was real life. They made it so that he could glare at her the whole time. He's a supposed an apparent attacker. That's what she's claiming. You have it where he can glare at her the whole time and then walk
Through a window
through where he can yell at her again. Like,
which is that's another like small town thing. Like they're wanting to set it up like this is a small town, everybody knows everyone. So that's another trope of like it's so small that the sheriff's office and the holding cells in the actual jail are like all connected. So they have to like,
which is probably true. But it was like there was no other room. We couldn't get her in another room where she didn't have to be verbally abused.
Yeah, she's just out on the floor
again. Like, this is where I'm like, never. Sydney in this movie is so gaslit through the whole thing that you're just like, holy shit, man. Like, this poor girl. So her friends ends up showing up. Oh, before I get into that, let's go ahead and take a break.
Yeah,
we'll be back.
Idea.
And we're back. Okay. So they're in the sheriff's office. Her friends come to pick her up, and this is where forgot to turn that off. This is where we find out. I want to say this is where we might find out a little bit before this, but somewhere in the sheriff's office, you find out Dewey's actually the brother of her best friend. So she's gonna go stay at Dewey's house because she's staying with her best friend. And they're like, Dewey, we're ready to go right fucking now. He's like, wait, I'm talking to the sheriff. And she's like, I said, let's go. And he's like, Mom said you have to respect me.
He's so stupid.
Join, like, in front of everybody. So now everyone's laughing at him, like, which fair enough, honestly.
I would have laughed too. I'd have been literally been like, you're so fucking stupid.
Yeah, get out. Just walk away. And even the sheriff's like, Jesus Christ, just take them out the back door. Take them out. Because, of course, the media is all front and Gail's up there. And Gail, this fucking bitch, first of all, she's like, let's go, Jesus. And I was like, is she being racist? Is her cameraman's name like Jesus and she just like refuses to say that or something?
Right.
But no, his name's like Brett or something. So then I was like, why'd you call him Jesus? He doesn't have long hair. Like, and then she's like, oh, like she calls him like a tub of lard and stuff. And I'm like, okay, like he's not fit, but
the fat phobia.
Where Jesus, because that man in today's standards, you wouldn't be like, oh, there's the fat one in the show. Like, but apparently that was fat in the 90s. And that's just sad. Like, ew.
Yeah, she's like yelling at him to hurry up. And then she said something like, when I say hurry up, it means you need to move your fat ass or some bullshit like that. And I was like,
even if you
Jesus
have
Christ,
50 pounds on you. And I'm like, damn.
Lord.
But she does find, so she is like, oh, they're probably going to the back door. She goes around and she finds Sydney in the back alley. And she's like, oh, Sydney, is everything okay? She's trying to enter, like, camera in the face. And the friend is like, hey, fuck off. And so he's like, no, let me talk to her. And she's like, so how are you? And she's like, I'm good. I just doing my job. And then she's like, how's the book? And she's like, it's great. And she's like, oh, too bad I won't be able to read it. She's like, oh, I'll send it to you. And Sydney just goes, blood out. Like, knocks her ass out. And I was like, fucking get her, Sydney. Fucking get her.
Yeah, because she's writing a book about how, because Sydney was the eyewitness testimony to who murdered her father, and his name was like Cotton or something, right? Cotton. And she is writing a book about how Sydney got it wrong and it wasn't Cotton that did it.
Yeah.
So it's like, why the fuck would I read that? The fuck is wrong with you?
And just off, because this is a commentary, I mean, even kind of off what we do. of all these media outlets who profit off of these horrible stories of people's lives,
Right.
and but have no regard for the actual family or what's happening
Right.
to them while they're doing this. And her whole excuse is like, well, somebody's going to write it, so why not me? And it's kind of like, you
I
might want to
mean,
at least go talk to Sydney, maybe do it from her perspective or something. Like, Jesus.
yeah.
Instead
Yeah,
of
that's
going,
why I don't do old, I only do old cases. Like that's why I
yeah,
don't do new cases at all. Even on the separate show that I do, we
yeah,
don't do new cases cuz like mm-mm,
yeah.
mm-mm,
And even
gross.
after reading this case, I was kind of like, oh shit, man, shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Great.
yeah. Uh, so then she punched her in the face. Oh yeah, so then she's at her friend's house while Dewey's there, and they end up getting another phone call. So this is the phone call. So if you're keeping up, as of right now, our suspects, obviously fucking creepy ass Billy. They also had another friend who was kind of talking with them at the fountain. He's played by Jamie Kennedy, which you might be going, background characters usually can be the killer, so you might be thinking him right now.
And he's a weirdo.
Yeah, and he was a
He's
little
a
odd.
super weirdo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
while he was talking, so you're like, maybe, and then you're also thinking the murderer Cotton, and that's a big one. There, that's what like Gail and everyone's kind of trying to say, like, oh, is it another killer, or is it just that Sydney pointed at the wrong fucking one in the first place, and the real killer's out there still, you know?
Right.
So because she gets a call, wow, Billy's still in jail. This is supposed to be your moment of like, oh, guess it's not him. Damn, got it wrong. And this is also a moment. So she's like, oh my God, and she like hangs up and she's crying, and the mother and the friend like follow her, like, oh my God. And Dewey picks up the phone. Hello. Like, bitch, she already hung up. What are
That's how
you
it
doing?
works. You
That's not how phones work, Dewey. Officer Dewey. Jesus.
love him so much.
My God. So then you jump, it's school the next day, and her friend's like, you should have just fucking skipped. And she's like, I'm not gonna fucking skip. And she's like, I'm just worried about seeing Billy because I accused him and I was obviously wrong and stuff. And she also sees Gail in person. This is where Gail, you get the actual conversation of Gail being like, you pointed at the wrong guy. You think you saw a man, but you don't even know their true relationship. And pretty much just starts calling, I mean, she said it in nice words, kind of, but she was pretty much like, your mom was a fucking slut, sleeping with this dude. And, and I was just like, the whole time she's talking about, I'm like, even if the mom was having an affair, like the slut shaming in this movie is amazing. Like,
Typical
I'm like, so you're
90s.
saying because she had, even if it was an affair, she deserved to die? Or like the
But see,
way
then we get
Gail is going to bat for fucking Cotton makes no sense to me. Like, even if
it
at
makes
the
sense
end,
to me because
like,
she can ride that curtail. Yeah.
well, I get that, but I'm just
Yeah.
kind of like, but I don't like the way she comes off. She doesn't come off of like that's just the more profitable way to write it. She really comes off as like, I think you just pointed at the wrong guy. I think you had a slutty mom, and who knows who she was sleeping with. And I've talked to Cotton multiple times, and I think he's a very nice chap. Like, it just kind of
Yeah.
like, dude, like,
Well, we get both ends of the spectrum. You get the crazy slut shaming that's going on about the whole affair thing, and then you get
yeah,
the whole Sydney's a fucking prude. Like you get like in the
exactly.
90s and the early aughts, like you could only be two things. Like there was no middle ground at all for a woman
No.
or
And
a
this is once
teenage
again
girl.
of where we can say this now, watching the movie, being just commenting on that. But once again, this movie is making a commentary of other movies. This was just how they saw women. Like,
Yeah, this wasn't a
they're not making a
commentary. This
commentary,
was
but
just I
that's
mean,
just what they see their places. I highly doubt it.
maybe Wes
Oh, I
Craven was
really doubt
thinking
it.
about that in the back of his head, but that's not how it was received.
No.
Like that wasn't received as, oh, this is
Oh yeah.
satire. This is a commentary on how we treat women. You just accepted that
Oh yeah.
that's
You were just
how
like, that makes sense.
women had it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's, yep. There you go. So uh So Sydney ends up going. So she just been gaslit by Gail with her mother's murder. Then she ends up in the school where she has to run into old Billy Boy, who once again gaslights her about her mother and turns it into this whole, don't you think a year's been enough? Like, you could have slept with me by now. And I'm just feeling really unloved.
Why? Yeah,
because
why
you're
aren't you
not getting
over it yet?
over it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're not sucking my dick. So, and the way the nerve of him to be like, I lost my mom too, and I'm over it. She's like, your mom divorced your father.
She's
My
still
mom was
living.
murdered, bitch. What are you talking about? You can still see your mother. Like, that's not the same thing. And he just like, I never said that. And she like runs off crying. And then after having to deal with that, she's crying in a bathroom. Then two cheerleaders are in there talking about how she's a liar and nobody attacked her. She's doing it all for attention, and she herself is probably the murderer and stuff. Like, and then as they walk out and she's like, fuck my life, then the killer shows back up. Well, possibly a killer. A lot of kids were running around the school today with the costumes on, just pranking people, which also fucked up, but they would
Yeah,
do that.
Jesus Christ.
I truly believe every single, I think that's Generation X. That would have been that age. No, maybe some
Yes,
younger millennials.
the end of generation. Well,
Because our oldest
yeah,
millennials were born in 80.
I don't fucking know.
Yeah, that's too much math. They'd be
Honestly, I
preteens.
don't
So
know.
these guys have to be Gen Xers because they're older. They're graduating high school soon. So,
Yeah, they're like
yeah.
18, 17,
But
18.
I do believe that. I believe every boy that I grew up with would have thought that was fucking funny.
Yeah,
Like,
100%.
oh yeah. So, oh shit. So then I wrote poor Sydney. She just looks fucking crazy
Yeah.
now. Like everybody is against her, and it sucks for her. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
she does. I mean, I have to give it to her. She Reggie Bushes out of that fucking bathroom. She's just
Oh
like,
yeah.
ah, she's
She's
like,
like,
she's fucking
oh,
gone
she
out the
slid.
door. She's just,
He goes to jump, she goes whip and out.
yep, out,
You're not
total
getting her
gone.
today. Not today, Satan. And I will
Nope,
say, I love
nope,
the
nope.
principal in this because usually in these older movies, you'll see the principal really give the kids, like, especially if they're white boys, like a break. Like, oh, just.
Oh no, he did
He's like,
not.
well, he did
He like
not. He's like,
expelled.
they almost set him up for a quick second there. The way he's flinging those scissors around, where you might be like, you're pretty loosey goosey with the scissors, sir. Are you the murderer? But that's quickly kiboshed when he dies. He's the next to go. He's in his office. He gets school out. He tells them, let's just, with all these pranks happening, with all the fear, just no school. We'll see you back when this is all handled. And so all the kids are
Yeah, and they
happy.
set up a
Yeah, and
curfew for like
Matthew,
9 o'clock.
yeah, it's a curfew, but Matthew Lillard's character is like, party in my fucking house, and Sydney's friend is like, don't you want to go? It seems safer. And I was like, I kind of do get the logic in that, like, safety in numbers. Might as well all group together in the same house.
Yeah, but these are all
And then part of me was like,
douchebags.
yeah, but I was like, but you guys aren't going to be doing it safely. So, like, you plan on, like, drinking and shit, and it's probably, like, the worst possible case scenario. But
Right.
so that's their, but you see them walking away. That's their plan. And now the school's empty. Principal's out there, and he has the mask, and he's trying it on, and he's getting freaked out because he's hearing things. He's checking the closet, and then bang, bing, bang, boom, jump out, stab him in the chest. Principal dead. And you're like, damn, he was one of the good ones. One of the good ones. And then, oh, when he's searching, when he's like hearing things, and he looks out, the janitor with the Freddy Krueger sweater. I was like,
Yeah. And the janitor said something to him too, and it's like, why are you looking at me like that, or some shit
yeah,
like that. Like, that's funny. That
yeah.
was funny.
That got me. I was like, that was a tickle. And I will also say, I love that actor is really good.
Mhm.
He was from
What, the
Happy Days.
principal?
Yeah, he was the Happy
Chevy
Days guy.
Chase.
No,
He's
it's
a
not
dick in
Chevy
real life.
Chase. It's not
Isn't
Chevy
it?
Chase.
What is his
No,
name?
he's from, oh God, what is
Fucking
his name?
Christ.
I know. Ooh, David Arquette did not
Henry
age.
Winkler. It's Henry Winkler.
Winkler.
But he's
Yes.
also a douchebag in real life.
Well, that's possible. I haven't heard about his real life stuff. But I will say he doesn't die well. Like, he's very bad at acting
Yeah,
while dying,
yeah.
because he was definitely that like it was not good. It wasn't a good death scene at all. Like, he did not pull that off. Oh, it said something's cringy.
Probably the death scene is cringy. Him
It
dying was
probably is.
cringy.
It probably is what I wrote. That's cringy. Uh, Jesus.
I think the next scene you see them all at the house, right?
Yeah.
They're all at Matthew Lillard's
Is it the
house.
cops? Something.
Oh, they traced the phones. So
Oh
they
yeah.
got, well, okay, when I say trace the phones, I don't mean like how you
Right.
trace it
They
now.
got the phone
What
bill
yeah, they had to
and
get the
saw
phone bill
who
from the phone
called.
company and compare the calls to Sydney's number. And they found that Billy didn't call from his cell phone. And then they found that the call that came into Sydney's house was registered to her dad.
Yeah. So now
Whatever
you have,
phone number it was registered to her dad.
yeah.
So
So now
now
you're
it's like
going, the
the
dad did.
dad running around killing people.
Yeah.
Like, and they
That's
when
what
they
the
were
cops
at
definitely believe.
well, when they were at the when they took Sydney to the precinct when she accused Billy, they kept trying to get a hold of her dad and they couldn't find him at the hotel that he was supposed to be at.
Yeah.
So now there's that extra layer of, okay, he's not where he's
Where
supposed to
is he?
be. We can't find him. And his phone, whatever phone he has that's linked to his name, is coming up as the one that's making this call to Sydney's house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And
and then
then,
they
so
go to
they
the
go,
party.
I thought this was great, and this must be small town life. Deputy Dewey drops his teenage sister and her friend off at a party where there's supposed to be a curfew in, and like,
And there's
and then
definitely going to be alcohol, and Dewey
yeah,
knows this.
and he knows it. He's like, "Be careful, guys." And I get being like the cool older brother, but he literally pulled up in the cop car, and like nobody flinched. Nobody was like, They were,
It's
everyone in
just
town was just like,
Dewey.
"There's Officer Dumbass. What's up, bud?" Like,
Yeah, I mean, there
but then
was
he turns it right
yeah.
around. And so Gail has been trying to flirt with him to get answers,
Mhm.
more on the story. And she's at the party too. So I'm just like, nobody's going to react to this. Nobody's going to react to the news van just sitting out front, weirdly, and the cop car. We're just all still going to party. Like, so then Gail starts flirting with him, and then they show up in the party. So we know he's 25 because he says it. I think she's older than 25. I think she's closer to 30.
Yeah, she's
And they're
older
at a
than him.
party with high schoolers. And they walk in like they're the most, well, obviously she's super popular because she's on fucking TV. But it just was real hinky feeling. I was like, well, I mean, I get why she's there. She's trying to set up a camera to spy on the kids. She didn't actually want to stay at the party. But like Dewey looks so fucking proud of himself. I'm just like, come on, Dewey, get it together. Then we get the next kill scene. Her best friend goes down into the garage, and the very first thing you see when she turns on the lights is her fucking nipples. Just
It was cold out there, okay?
clearly, because her nipple, she's been wearing little tight sweaters and shirts the whole movie, and no nipple, no nipple. Kill scene, nipples, like hard nipples. They were like, this scene just isn't sexy enough. Get the nips out. Like,
Get the
she's going,
ice.
yeah, she's going to get beers, and she gets scared by a cat, and then the door kind of slowly closes, and then bing bang boom, he's there, and she's like, oh ha ha, let me by. And he's like, no, and he grabs her arm and like cuts her to like, hey, no, seriously, I'm gonna fucking kill you. So she's like, ah. And then she fights pretty good too, like throwing
Mhm.
bottles at him, punch him in the face, hit him with the refrigerator. But I feel like they gave her the dirtiest death, man. Like, cause
Yeah, it wasn't good.
she couldn't get, he had locked the door to the house. She couldn't get through that door. And I don't know, I guess she couldn't get to the button fast enough to open the garage door, but she decides to go through the cat door, which is obviously way too small for her. And I get being in a panic and stuff, but then he just walks over and hits the button and raises the garage door, and it breaks her neck pretty much because she only got like this part of
Mhm.
her through, you know? And I was just, and then she's just dangling there. And I will say that if you watch it knowing who the killers are, you will be like, oh yeah, that's a teenage boy there. Because even the way he's reacting is just like, oh shit, that fucking worked.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sick.
Like, like, and then goes back inside and closes the door, and you're just like, dang, nobody notices. And then I love how every time they show Matthew Dillard, because you're at his house, it's his party, he's an amazing host, because every time you see him, he's telling people have a good night. You know, they're like, as they're leaving the party, he's by the front door like, hey guys, thanks for coming, bye, like giving hugs and stuff, and then going back to the party.
You just
Like,
being a little weirdo.
this every time I'm like, why are so many people leaving the party? Just in herds. And then Billy shows up to the party, and by this, before the party even started, Sydney then got gaslit again by her best friend, agreeing with Gail that you don't know what you saw that night. And maybe, you know, what'd she say? She said that one actor who got accused of putting the gerbil up his butt. She says that, she's like, well, if you hear about a gerbil so often, it's eventually going to be true. And I was like, no, that's not how things work. That's not how facts work. Just because you get enough people to say something doesn't make it true. Like, so poor Sydney had to have that fucking conversation before this party after being attemptedly murdered twice now. But she feels bad for thinking Billy was the killer, so she decides, tonight's the night, bud, giving you the flower. I've officially been guilted enough by everybody in my life that I have no reason to be sad anymore. It's been a year since my mom died, and I need to get the fuck over it. And so she takes him upstairs, and she's like, tonight's the night, bud. Get on in here. And they start doing their thing. While they're doing their thing, the boys are downstairs. The crew. Okay. So the kid who's always kind of the side character, the Jamie Kennedy's character, this was a weird clipping too of the movie, because he's at the door talking to Matthew Lillard, and he's like, shit, fucking Billy's here, and I have no chance with Sydney. And Matthew's like, you never had a fucking chance with Sydney. What are you talking about? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go see what's up. He heads up the stairs, right? And then they show Sydney in the room, and then they go back downstairs, and he's just on the couch watching a movie with them. And I'm like, bitch, did you go upstairs? Because your ass was walking upstairs. We saw foot to stair action, and now you're just on a couch watching a movie.
He probably got like halfway up and was like, never mind. Yeah. But yeah, they're all like hanging out on the couch watching a scary movie, and he's like a scary movie aficionado. And
because he works at the movie store. And this is where you get his famous like stand up and go, rule number 1, virgins don't die. So no sex and no drinking, and sin puts you closer to death, and just going over the scary movie rules. And we find Gail has put a camera in the house, and like she's in the truck watching the camera, and they're watching Halloween. And so they're all just commenting on the movie. And then he ends up getting a call letting them know the principal died, and that kind of causes every other person left at the party to just leave. So then you're just presuming that Matthew Lillard's still in the house, Billy's still in the house, Sydney, and then
they think the girlfriend is still in the house.
Yeah, but we know she's technically in the house, yes, but she's dead. Yeah. Right. But it's presumed that this is what it's whittled down to now. Every other guest is sped off. Dewey's out with Gail taking a nice walk, and this woman is wearing like 9-inch heels, like stilettos, point toe.
No, they weren't that big, because I watched them the way she was watching. They were like the typical 90 like thicker heel, because I literally looked at her shoes. I was like, what the fuck are you watching? I didn't have to rewind, because there is a foot shot later on, but I was like, what the fuck are you wearing? Because she's obviously in heels, like you can hear it while she's walking with Dewey. And I'm like, is this like just a posh lady thing? Like you're so used to being in them now that you're like, like how are you walking? Because they walk like around the block.
90s. Yeah, of the 90s, we were all expected to believe that we were supposed to be in heels at all times, like, and it was comfortable.
Stupid.
Like, but she's running around like that. She even comes back to the house. as the murderers have all set up. So Sydney, which I thought this was weird. So you kind of cut. So everyone's left the house. Gail's out walking. Jamie Kennedy's kind of sleeping on a couch at this point. Not really sleeping, but he's the only one left watching the movie. He just kind of laid back. And Sydney's upstairs with Billy. They've just had sex, which for some reason Billy's on the floor, which I thought was weird. I'm like, why is he on the floor? Why not in the bed? So, but then Sydney goes, so who'd you use your one phone call on? And I was like, why? What? And he's like, I'm sorry, what? I don't know. I called my dad. And she's like, no, the sheriff called your dad. So who'd you use your one phone call on? And he was like, do you still think I'm the killer? And she's like, no, I was just thinking it'd be funny if that's how you threw me off by actually calling me while you were in jail. I'm just saying, it's just a thought. And he's like, oh no, you think I'm the killer. And then come in the killer and stabs him a couple times. And she's like, oh my God, Billy's dead. And she runs off. And then it gets a little chaotic from here. So then it jumps to like Dewey and Gail almost getting run over by the other teens who had sped out of there to go see the dead principal.
Right.
So
and they find
back to the house.
Well, they find Sydney's dad's car.
Oh yeah.
They had gotten a call. Dewey got a call and said, hey, there's a suspicious car parked like somewhere near the house. So that's where they were walking to. And they like fall over and do this stereotypical, oh, you fell on me thing. And Gail is like, hey, isn't that a car? Like, aren't you looking for this car? And it's Sydney's dad's car. And then while that's happening, the killer goes up doing all that shit, kills Billy. And then the cameraman is like still in the car, in the van, and he's watching on the video, he's just watching everything go down. So Sydney like bolts out of there. And something, things get chaotic.
She ends up upstairs and she's like banging in windows. And then she climbs out of a window. She ends up, but she didn't let go to like walk the roof. She was still holding on and just started screaming, causing him to be able to reach through, and he just kind of pushed her off the roof. But luckily she landed in the boat. So only hurting herself a little bit, but she fell right next to her dead friend, so that was a nice shot. From there, she bolted to the van. He was kind of sleeping, and she gets into the van, and he sees the video of Kennedy on the couch, and the killer's coming up behind him. And he's like, oh shit, I gotta save this kid. But he kind of forgot there was a delay from camera to actually time.
It's like 30 seconds, yeah.
So he gets out of the van, sees the front doors open, and he's like, shit. And he went to like turn around and say something to her, and then throat slashed. Killer was already outside. Sydney she slams the door shut and locks it, but I guess the front window was open because he just reaches his arm through and reopens it. And then there was also a little crawl hole, so she like crawled through that and got out of it, and she starts running again. And he's like, ah, shit, mister.
Yeah.
Dewey and Gail have now reached the house, but they go inside. Or Gail goes to the van, Dewey goes inside, so he's like guns, like, where's everybody?
That's why I saw her shoes, because you have this shot where she's like yelling for the cameraman. She thinks he's like asleep or whatever, and she's like, where are you? And she has like a flashlight, and then it pans down and you see like the blood on like the little step on the van, and it pans all the way down to where she's stepping in the blood. That's when I looked at her shoes, because I was like,
I missed
what the
that
fuck are you wearing?
I only saw her walking up to the house, and those bitches look like stilettos, and then I missed that scene. But then so then she gets in the van and she's like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And Jamie Kennedy's character runs out, and he's like, stop the man. And she's like, yep. Oh, she beats him. Like, he comes to the door. He's like, save me. And she's like, no. He beats him with a brick of a phone, like right in the face multiple times. And then she drives out of there. Then Sydney jumps out of a bush, causing her to swerve. And she's off into a ravine, presumably dead because she rammed into a tree. And
the dude's body, like, she like slams on the brakes, and the dude's body comes up, and she this is my favorite part. There was like blood on the window dripping down before she figured out that the dude's body was up there. There's like blood on the window, and she's like, oh no, and she tries to rub it on the inside, and it doesn't come off because it's on the outside. So she turns on the windshield wipers, and it's just like blood.
And then I love because he slides down and she's like, get off my car.
Yeah.
But then she rams a tree, and I was immediately like, car safety back then. No airbags. Airbags were
Right.
not a guarantee in 96. So Gail
pay
didn't
extra.
invest in her life there. So Sydney's now running back inside, and she locks the door because the guy's behind her, and Billy's at the top of the stairs with blood all over his shirt and stuff. And she's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. The killer's out there. Are you okay? I thought you were dead.
Oh no,
And
it's the two guys. So like when she's running
oh
back inside, where does she get a gun? She gets a gun from somewhere.
shit.
And I
Must have
don't
she got it
remember
from Dewey or something. Like Dewey had gotten taken down. When she's running towards the house, Dewey is coming out of the front door with a knife in his back.
Yes.
And then she's like, oh shit. And she grabs his gun. And then Matthew Lillard and Jamie Kennedy's characters are right behind her going, fuck, save me. He's the killer. And he's like, no, he's the killer. And she's like, fuck you both. And she slams the door on them and locks it. And then Billy's character comes downstairs and she's like, they're killers. And she's crying. And then he's kind of like, got him. Like,
yeah, he just like takes the gun from her.
Yeah.
And in like a way that's like, oh, it's all right. It's okay now. Like I will protect you kind of thing. And then which one comes in? Is it Matthew Lillard or the other dude?
It was Matthew. Well, yeah, it was Matthew first. And she like goes to him and she's like, oh my God, Billy. And he's like, oh, me too. Like,
yeah.
We're both killers. And then Jamie's character comes in and they shoot him like almost immediately. They're just like,
they throw him through a table first. He goes through a table at some point.
I want to say he got shot and then he got thrown at the table.
He fell through the table.
Yeah. He takes it very dramatically. He's like, like falls back. And then she ends up running to the kitchen and they both have their voice modulators. And this is where you find out the whole big plan. And I will say, this is where Billy, I'm like, this is where he shines. He, as an actor, he plays psychopath very well.
Yeah. It's the eyes.
Like, I believe you're a psychopath. I've believed you're a psychopath since the moment I saw you, dumbass. Like, you don't seem to pull off good at all. Just psychopath. But he does it very well, and you find out that, Cotton didn't kill her mom. It was fucking him. And he did it because her mom was sleeping with his dad, and that's what caused the divorce. So he did have a motive, which you did see, because he talked about how this is like scary movies, and you don't have motives, and that's what makes it scary. But then he gives her a motive, and you can see Matthew Dillard's face be like, wait a minute, you had a motive? Like,
but that's the whole thing. Matthew Lillard was just in it. He was just in it for Billy. That's the only reason he was doing this. He was just in it to Billy. It sounds like a good time. I'm bored as shit. This sounds like fun. And that is way better to me.
And then this is what I found a little crazy about the whole situation. I was like, okay, granted, you're both crazy. They start stabbing each other first. I'm like, shouldn't you take care of your last victim before you start stabbing each other and weakening yourselves? Like, I feel like you should go at her full strength and then stabby each other to pretend you were victims in the situation. But they have her dad. They show her dad. They've had him taped up in a closet for like a week, I guess. And so I don't think it's been that time. I think it's only been a couple days, but still, you feel like it's longer. And then they stab each other, and he's stabbing Matthew really hard, and he's like, "You're hurting me!" And then he's like, "Get the fucking gun!" And he's like, "Ooh, there's no gun." And it's Gail, and she's like, "I'm gonna shoot both of you," but she doesn't.
They just rock her shit. They just like punch her in the head, and she like falls over on top of the other dude.
Because the safety was on. He was like, "Ooh, I know something about that gun you don't," which caused him to get close, and he just hit her, and she falls out and lands on Dewey, and he's like, "Ooh, guns work better without safety," so he takes the gun back. And then by this time, Sydney has gotten her father, and they fucking went and bolted off somewhere. So they're like, "Fuck." And he's like, "Well, get up, come on." And he's like, "I can't, man. I'm dying. You hit me too hard." Like,
yeah, you did it too rough.
And then Sydney, they get a phone call, and it's Sydney with the voice modulator being like, "Oh, is it not fun anymore? Like, fuck you in your games." And he's like on the phone. Like the one guy's like, fuck you, bitch, where are you? He goes to run, and Matthew Lillard picks up the phone, and he's like, hey, I think I'm dying. And
Yeah.
she's like, was this fun for you? What are you gonna tell the police? Because I called them. And he's like, I don't know, like that I wasn't involved, like it was Billy's fault. And then Billy comes back, takes the phone, yells at her again, runs off. And he's like, did you really call the cops? And she's like, yeah, I fucking called the cops. He's like, my dad's gonna be so mad at me. Like, it was just such a crazy, like, roller coaster of emotions there where you're like, what? Like,
I
that's
love
what you're
it.
worried about now? So
Yeah, because they're
then
still teenagers. He's still a kid.
I
Like,
know it's such a weird. So then Sydney jumps out of a closet dressed in the ghost face, stabs him in the Billy in the heart with an umbrella, one of those really long ones with the pointy at the end. And then let's see, who takes Matthew Lillard?
it's Sydney. I think she gets back up again. Or not Sydney,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Gail. I think Gail gets back up again, right?
I won't. Yes,
Because it wasn't the dad and it wasn't Weirdo Kid.
no,
I think it
the
was
dad
Gail.
stays duct taped like the whole time.
Yeah, they
They
didn't
don't.
let him out.
I thought he had to bust himself out of the closet. It's like the last jump scare of the movie. You're like, oh, everyone's dead, and then the dad busts out of the closet, still taped up. I'm like, Sid, you couldn't help him out real quick while you were hiding? Like,
Yeah, you
jeez,
can get the tape off. Good
at
lord.
least off his mouth. My God. But you had time to put a costume on. I see. I'm just saying priorities, man.
Yeah,
So,
what the fuck?
so, uh, so then they end up like Dewey ends up waking up and shooting everybody, and it's officially like over. They're dead. And they have to do the last shot because he's like, oh, this is the part where they re-wake up, and then she's like, nah, not my movie, blah. And I'm like, but he did re-wake up, like he did do it though. But
Yeah, and then
that's
they
fine.
they
You
double
got the
tapped him
headshot,
again.
so that's fine. And that's pretty much where it kind of ends. Like, so I mean, that still holds up. Masterpiece. Like,
100%.
yeah,
Final goal realness. Like
yeah,
it's a fun time.
it
It's
was
just a
great.
fun
Still a
fucking
fun
time.
movie. Even once you get like the first time you get the whole fun of the mystery, but even once the mystery's over, it's still rewatchable. Just for Dewey alone and his scenes.
Well, Dewey and Matthew Lillard, like
Yeah,
the
for
more
sure.
people analyze Matthew Lillard's character in this movie and his motivations for doing it and the fact that he is not straight is just my favorite.
Yeah.
Every time I see an analysis on this movie, I watch it the whole way through because I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Everything you're saying is 100% correct. And I think Matthew Lillard himself would back you up on that. And I
Oh yeah.
love that.
So for the real story,
We should take a break.
oh, no, really was trying to shove it into those last 5 minutes. We'll be back. And we are back. And now that we finished the Scream, the movie, we're going to go over the true story. Now, I will say, good news here. Very loosely based. It's a very loosely based story. So you had the writer, Kevin Williams, who learned about the Gainesville murders. And these were gruesome. So they happened in 1990. A man named, what did I write his name down? Oh no, my notes are all over the place. Dang, I don't think I wrote his name down at all. I just wrote down their names, the victims' names. Oh, Danny. His name was Danny Rolling. Um, he was actually born in like 1955 in Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana, to a cop father who abused him and his mother terribly. He had like a story of like the first time he remembers being beat was like at 1 because he wasn't crawling properly. His mother was, because of the abuse, would attempt suicide quite a few times in his life, and by 11 he was already on hard drugs. Once he was a teenager and could get the fuck away, he joined the Navy, but by then he'd be dishonorably discharged because of drugs, where he said he did acid over 100 times. So I was like, no, your brain is fried. That's a
Well,
fucked up. Yeah.
that shit
I
that
was like,
shit
that's true.
fits
Holy shit.
Yeah,
So
that
he
shit sits
does.
in your spinal column too,
Oh
and
God,
like it doesn't leave you
yeah.
if you do that high amount of it.
Ugh. Yeah.
Yikes.
So he would at 23, even after being discharged, get married, but pulled off what daddy pulled off and was just as abusive to the wife and children. So she ran off. And this is where his true violent streak took over. After losing her, he would rape a woman. He then also, in a alcohol, drug infused driving, ended up killing a woman in more of a hit and run situation. So he didn't go to jail for that. But he said he carried the guilt with him. Um, from there, he would stay on drugs. If he wasn't robbing places and getting caught and ended up in jail, he was getting small jobs here or there, getting fired. Then a family in Louisiana ended up dying. It was 3 people: a father, a daughter, and then her 8-year-old son. And after this, he's like the main suspect. So he steals IDs, changes his name, and heads down to Florida. But by then, it was kind of like it was done. The violence was set. So he would end up at the University of Florida. And on August 24th of 1990, he would break into Sandra Larson, who was only 18, and Christina Powell, who was only fucking 17, break into their dorm room and just torture these women or girls. Um, he mutilated their bodies, raped them multiple times, and killed them by stabbing. He then, the very next night, went after Christina Height, a 18-year-old, and he did even worse to her, cutting off her nipples, decapitating her, and posing her body in a fun way for cops to find.
I know the story. Yeah, the posing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then he took a break for a night and then attacked 2 males who I want to say he didn't get to truly torture them like they would, and they suspect it's because he was maybe about to be caught or like something happened, but he did end up like shooting the one guy and then stabbing the other one. And he was going to get away with this. Like, he left no evidence. He said because of his top father, he knew how to get rid of evidence, and
Well,
he
especially in
did
the
that.
90s. It's not
Yeah,
like,
yeah, like he didn't leave his duct tape around. Like, they know he used it because of residue, but it wasn't he didn't leave anything, and he could have definitely got away with this. But so some months later, people had noticed the same type of mutilation happened with the 3 people in Louisiana, and that caused them to go, well, we have DNA in this case. And they were like, well, send us that DNA and we're going to run it through our court systems, like just the criminals, because they did have that at the time, luckily. And because he was constantly in and out of jail, and he just happened, the only reason he didn't kill more people is because he went to rob somebody first and got caught. So he was in jail. That's the only thing that stopped him. And when they went to him and was like, hey, your DNA kind of partially matches this, he just went, yeah, I did it. I killed those 3 people in Louisiana and I killed these students, and you should probably fucking lock me up now. It's probably the only good thing about him, is he at least didn't try to toy with people about it. He was just kind of, yeah, like, take me to jail. I did it. And so he would end up getting the death penalty. He did, his lawyers, he pled guilty immediately. Well, he was like, I did it immediately, but the lawyers were like, he's insane. Okay. He has like another personality. But they were like, well, the personality you're describing sounds a lot like what this movie did. Uh, it was like Poltergeist 3. And he even like used the name of the character in the movie. So they were like, so we think you're kind of full of shit. And you know, you should get death penalty. And so that's what he got. He ended up being now I feel terrible saying this, put down in 2006 at the age of 52. And he had one of the most filled up rooms since like Ted Bundy. He was one of the more high profile death penalty cases there. So, but
damn, he had kids.
he did, like, one daughter. I didn't really look too much into her because I don't like getting information about their kids like that. Like,
Mm-mm.
they're not those
Mm-mm.
people, and they probably don't even want to be associated with that
I
name.
would change my fucking name,
Oh yeah,
change everything.
oh yeah, 100%.
Mm-mm.
So luckily, I will say there was an article where the guy Kevin, who wrote it, his original script actually like dealt with college students, and I think were a lot more like the actual murders themselves. But he wrote he had done an interview, and he just the way it was written, you could tell it was said with some bitterness, where he brought this script to the studio, and it was one of those situations where the studio was like, so I'm gonna take this one little nugget from that, we're gonna change everything about it, so on board or not. And you could tell it was one of those situations because he was bringing up in a lot of interviews of how, like, well, I really wanted this to happen, but I like the way it turned out. Like, you can
Well,
feel
I
the
mean,
difference there. I think he as a writer wanted a way more serious
mhm.
and movie, and something maybe a little closer to what actually happened, but we didn't get that. But I'm honestly kind of glad it didn't completely
Well, if
copy
this
it.
was
You know what I mean? Like,
this guy he didn't die until 2006, and this movie came out
yeah.
in 1996. This would have only been
Oh
like
yeah.
6 years,
Oh yeah.
maybe
Like
even
right
less
after
than
it.
the actual murders. Like, come on, my guy.
And
That
I mean,
is
spoilers, but I did feel like, so my it's they're all on Paramount if you want to have a
mhm,
binge fest. But my Paramount went automatically to number two, and I thought it was very ironic that number two is set only a couple years after number one, and they have a movie out, and like that's how it starts. This couple at the movie watching
mhm.
the original, but the movie. But it was like one of those moments where you're like, you had to wonder if people, like in '96, it had to be known, like, oh, this is written about the Gainesville murders, like, because they had just happened, like it wasn't
It's
that long ago.
possible. I don't know, because there's been a lot of, like, the way that we market a lot of horror movies in particular, if it's like based on something, usually it's like a big thing. But there was not even like a snippet at the
A
beginning of like
tagline on this
base.
one. That is
Yeah, there's
very
not a
true.
tagline
And
or
I do
anything.
wonder, well, that's what I'm saying. I wonder if the studio did that on purpose. Like if this guy wanted it to be more like, yeah, this is based on a true story thing. And the studio was like, no, dude, that wound is too fresh. We'll kind of take your idea of teenagers being killed by a random killer in their school area, but like that's pretty much it. That's all we're going with. And I think it was the better thing. That was the better decision to do, for
Yeah,
sure.
100%.
Especially
Jesus
coming out only
Christ.
6 years after the murders.
Yeah, good lord. Have
Yeah,
some fucking decorum and
yeah,
respect, my guy.
for sure, for sure. So yeah, but
Jesus Christ.
I don't think I'd ever heard of the Gainesville murders. So when I read on that, I was like, "Oh, shit." And I guess A&E has a couple specials about him. I think Netflix, they it was weird. Netflix said they had a documentary about it, but when I went to look into that documentary, it came up as a different documentary about like vegans and stuff.
Yeah,
So I was like,
sometimes they
what?
do that.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
something happened there. So I'm not sure if Netflix is, or did they just took theirs down? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
I've watched some of the AE, what is it called?
the A&E.
A&E. I always wanna say AEW, that's wrestling. That's but I've watched some of the A&E stuff on it, and I've read articles and stuff, and it's sad that I've read and watched and seen so much that it wasn't until you started talking about them being posed that I was like, Yeah, I got it."
Recognize
Because
that one.
it's just it's so much, and so many of them start out the same way, especially with men acting this way. They start out the same fucking way, like,
Oh, I know.
"Oh, my parents abused me,
Well,
and
this
then
is,
I
oh
got
yeah,
into
this is
drugs
a
and, like,
pure
X, Y,
story of
Z."
small dick energy. And don't get me wrong, abuse definitely needs treatment. Like you need to get into therapy. You need to deal with your shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I absolutely understand how people turn to drugs. Don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
that don't mean you gotta go violent to
And
live.
go fucking kill people
Well,
and
yeah, but
do
you
all of this
turn
shit.
violent even before that. Like,
Right.
and then because you got angry that your wife left you, rightfully so, then you start killing people. Like, because you did not, and this is exactly how it went. He didn't feel like a man. His wife left him. He couldn't keep a job. It's the classic, I've been demasculated so much, now everyone has to fucking pay around me. And
Handle
I,
your shit, dude.
he definitely deserved the death penalty. I'm not sad about it. And I, like I said, the only half decent thing this man probably ever did in his life was just admit to, at least he just admitted to all the killings. Like none of these are like, because you get a lot of cases out there that are like, we're pretty sure it's this guy, but he'll never fucking admit it. But like all the evidence kind of points toward him. You know,
Right.
like he didn't pull one of those shits. He at least did go, yeah, it was me. I did all of it. Yeah. And that was probably the only thing he ever did in his life that was kind of decent. So, oh yeah, he did try to go get vengeance on his father, and he shot him twice, once in the face and once in the chest. The dad actually lived. He only lost an eye.
Can't kill evil, I guess.
Right? Like, which that had to be a punch in the gut to like finally try to go overpower your dad so much and like let all your rage out that way, and you still didn't fucking kill him. Like it's like those nightmares where like you're fighting people but your hits don't do anything. You know?
Oh my God.
Like it's like that in real life.
I hate that.
Right? I can't never land a punch in my dreams, man.
I hate it.
You
I've done
wake
it.
up feeling so powerless. Like
There's been a couple of times that I have, but it's usually been in like extreme. My dreams are weird. My dreams are real weird. It's usually in like weird situations. Like my dreams are like fantasy land on acid. Like
oh
they,
man.
so like but most of the time when I have landed them, it's because in my dream I'm like some kind of like powerful sorcerer or something. Like there's
Oh,
something else going on.
nice.
But if it's like just me, I can't land a fucking punch at all. And
I never get to land the punch ever.
B tried to make me do 5 push-ups a couple weeks ago and I couldn't fucking do it. So
Jared had the
like
nerve to tell me that he was like, "I'll take you on a shopping spree if you can do this TikTok challenge." And it was like a game where you had to like, you're like traveling the little person with your nose, so you have to like move up and down. And you're supposed to be like doing it push ups and all. And I was like, "Get out of my fucking face! Just get out of my fucking face!" Because you
well,
know I
that's
can't
what
hold
B
that
came to
for like
me.
2 fucking seconds.
B
Like,
came to me and he was like, um it was some TikTok thing where it was like, if your girl can't do 5 push-ups, then like she'll never be able to save you from a situation or some shit like that. And he was like, "You can't do 5 push-ups." And in my head, I was like, 5? Just 5? I can do 5 push-ups. No, now I cannot. I cannot.
you, I used to be able to do 5 push ups.
Me too. That's
That
why I
was
was like,
probably my
yeah, I was so
it's probably like my
confident, dude.
personal best in my life.
I
I am not
was
there anymore. That's
I
not
was so
happening.
fucking confident. I was like, 5, only 5, only 5. And I got out my yoga mat and everything, like rolled it out. And I was like, I can do 5 push-ups. I
You're going down,
literally
bitch.
did not make it back up from doing 1. Like, I
Oh
quite
no.
literally was like, my arms were like shaking and I just fell down to the floor and started laughing. And I was just like, I don't know
Never
what to
mind.
tell
We're
you,
all
but
gonna die.
apparently
Sorry,
you're
bud.
gonna die. Like, I.
We'll just damn, that didn't work out. Like,
So sorry. I will see you in the afterlife.
right? You'd be standing in line in heaven. He just like not even looking at you, like, I can't even deal with you right now.
I can't deal with you. I cannot believe.
We're here because of you right now. Don't even look at me. Get in the back of the line.
But again, that comes back to that thing of he's supposed to deal with it. He's supposed to handle it. If it's up to
Exactly.
me to handle it, I'm gonna
And
fumble the fucking bag.
that's what baseball bats are for. Okay. It gives a little power behind
Hello.
it. Yeah. All right,
Anyway,
guys.
okay.
So that was the classic, the masterpiece Scream. And I personally will be binging. I don't think they have the newest one up there, but I hear that's really good. So
Yeah,
some
we
of
haven't
my
seen
friends have told
that.
me
We
it's worth going to see.
normally we would be like in the theater to watch that, but there's been so much stuff that's come out recently. Like we saw Creed 3 2 weeks ago, and then last weekend we saw the new John Wick, and then this weekend we're going to see Dungeons and Dragons. So
Oh,
like our
Dungeons and
schedule is
Dragons.
full.
I know it's too full.
There's
It's
too
too
many
full.
things
I'll
to
see it
watch.
when
I
it
just
comes on
haven't gotten to
Paramount.
it.
Well, I
Yeah, I
don't
just
get to
haven't
go to
gotten
the
to it.
movies anyways, but I'll see it when it gets on Paramount. But we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.